Humans are one of the most powerful creatures in the world, all thanks to our brains. We're weaker than bears, our senses aren't as sharp as dogs, and our reflexes can't match cats. Yet, we still dominate the planet, all because of this incredible organ inside our heads. Humans have spent thousands of years trying to explore the brain, but even today, many of the things people believe about it are just myths. So let's break down 6 of the most common misconceptions about how the brain really works. Number 1, we only use 10% of our brain. This one's everywhere. Movies like Lucy or Limitless love the idea that if we could just unlock the other 90%, we'd gain superpowers. But in reality, our entire brain is active. Brain scans like PET and fMRI never show vast, dark regions sitting idle. Every part has a role, whether it's movement, memory, language, vision, or regulating automatic functions. Even when we sleep, the brain is busy consolidating memories, processing emotions, and keeping our body running. Here's a fact that kills the myth. The brain consumes about 20% of our body's energy, despite making up only about 2% of body weight. Evolution wouldn't keep such a costly organ if 90% of it just sat around unused. And real-life injuries can damage even small brain regions, often causing serious deficits. That means every bit is doing something important. So where did the 10% idea come from? Probably a mix of misquotes from early psychology, self-help exaggerations, and Hollywood's love of a good story. It's not that we only use 10%, but rather that we often underestimate how adaptable and plastic the brain is. Our real hidden potential doesn't come from flipping on unused neurons, but from training, practice, and the brain's ability to rewire itself through experience. Number 2, left brain versus right brain. You've probably seen some sort of quizzes online. They asked, are you left-brained or right-brained? Supposedly, if you're left-brained, you're logical and analytical. If you're right-brained, you're creative and intuitive. It's like saying you're an extrovert or introvert, but you can't stay one way forever, right? Brain imaging studies consistently show that almost every cognitive task, whether it's solving math problems, composing music, or even daydreaming, all require both hemispheres working together. For example, language processing is often more active on the left, but understanding context, tone, and emotion in speech depends heavily on the right. Similarly, creativity isn't stored in the right hemisphere. Artists rely on left hemisphere regions for planning, technique, and structure, just as much as they rely on right hemisphere areas for imagination and visualization. So the whole idea of being a left brain person or a right brain person is basically a myth fueled by pop psychology and internet quizzes. In reality, you use both sides of your brain. Logic and creativity are partners, not rivals. Number 3, brain training games can boost your IQ. You've probably seen apps like Lumosity or Elevate promising to train your brain and make you smarter. The idea is tempting. Just play some fun puzzles on your phone and suddenly boost your IQ. But science doesn't back it up. Yes, brain training games can make you better at those specific games. You practice a memory puzzle. And sure, you'll improve at that puzzle. But does it transfer to real-life intelligence, problem solving, or learning new skills? Not really. A BBC experiment with over 8,600 participants found that after 6 weeks of training, people only improved at the tasks they had practiced, not at unrelated skills. So what does work if you want to keep your brain sharp? Engaging in rich and varied activities. Learning a new language or instrument, playing sports, reading deeply, or simply having meaningful conversations challenge your brain in diverse ways. These activities build connections across multiple brain regions, not just a narrow skill set. Number 4, Mozart Effect. I heard a parent say,
play Mozart for your baby. It'll make them smarter.
What if I play Kill This Love of Blackpink instead?
Let's kill this!
This whole idea started in 1993, when a study found that listening to Mozart gave college students a short-term boost in solving certain spatial reasoning tasks, like folding paper in your head or visualizing shapes. But the truth is, the effect only lasted about 10 to 15 minutes. That's it. It wasn't a permanent IQ increase, not even close. But after that study, the media ran wild with the story. Headlines turned it into, Mozart makes you smarter. Baby product companies cashed in, selling Mozart CDs and DVDs, promising to raise your child's intelligence. But when scientists dug deeper, doing larger meta-analyses over the years, the results were clear. There's no strong evidence that simply listening to Mozart or any music that can boost general intelligence. Even the original researcher later clarified, it doesn't actually affect overall IQ. At best, it just temporarily boosts certain narrow tasks. So no, putting your baby in front of a Mozart playlist isn't going to turn them into Einstein. But here's the good news. Music is still incredibly valuable. Learning an instrument, Engaging with rhythm or participating in any kind of art builds discipline, memory, coordination, emotional expression, and social connection. Those are huge for brain development and overall growth. Number 5, brains stop developing by the time you hit puberty. Well, in reality, the brain keeps changing way past your teenage years. Scientists like Nick Spitzer from UC San Diego point out that the human brain doesn't fully mature until your mid-20s. That's why young adults often still feel like they're figuring things out, because biologically, their brains are still wiring and rewiring themselves. What's actually happening is fascinating. Your brain is constantly creating new neural connections, pruning away the ones you don't use and strengthening the ones you do. This process is called synaptic pruning and remodeling. It helps shape who you are based on your experiences, habits, and environment. In other words, your brain is always a work in progress. And here's the kicker. This adaptability or neuroplasticity doesn't stop in your 20s. It continues throughout your whole life. Every time you learn a new skill, adapt to a challenge, or even change a habit, your brain is literally reshaping itself. That means it's never too late to grow, to change, or to learn something new. Even in old age, research shows that mental stimulation, physical activity, and social engagement can promote brain health and even protect against cognitive decline. For example, older adults who take up painting, chess, or a new language not only gain a hobby, but also show measurable improvements in memory and attention. Physical activities like dance or yoga can further boost coordination and brain-body communication. Meanwhile, strong social connections act like a protective buffer, reducing the risk of diseases like dementia. So instead of thinking of the brain as something that finishes developing, it's more accurate to see it as a lifelong project. It's less like a static machine and more like a dynamic garden. The last misconception is alcohol kills your brain cells. You've probably heard someone say, every time you drink, you're killing neurons. It sounds scary, but the truth is more nuanced. Moderate drinking doesn't instantly fry your brain cells. What alcohol actually does, especially with heavy and long-term use, is damage the dendrites, the little branches that connect neurons to each other. Think of it like fraying the wires between circuits, not blowing up the whole system. That disruption can definitely hurt communication in the brain, but it's not the same as wiping out neurons completely. Now, in cases of extreme alcoholism, things can get serious. Disorders like Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome can develop largely due to vitamin deficiencies and damage to blood vessels in the brain. That's when we see severe memory loss and cognitive problems. But even then, the issue isn't simply all your brain cells are dead. Here's the hopeful part. The brain has a remarkable ability to adapt and repair itself when the damage isn't catastrophic. If someone stops heavy drinking, with time, nutrition, and care, the brain can recover function and even rewire connections. The human brain is one of the most complex and fascinating things in the universe, and it's no wonder myths have grown around it. But as science advances, we're learning just how adaptable, resilient, and powerful it really is. So instead of chasing myths like unlocking 90% or quick IQ boosts, the real magic is in how our brains change when we challenge ourselves, learn, and grow. That's the true superpower of the human mind.